had to be a time where we were all at one. The cohort of primal wisdom that we all come from, your history is my history is your history, There's no separation. The separation is or the division is what really caused fear, when you feel separate from yourself, you don't know. It's like you're a little kid and you lost in a department store and you can't find your mom. That level of fear, that's the level of fear that people are living in every day because they've forgotten themselves.
Welcome to Unbroken Chain, the podcast. I'm Maura James, your host as always. And this week we're hanging out with my friend Trendy. Trendy is an artist and a lover in so many senses of the word. He does a beautiful job introducing himself and very quickly deconstructing the idea of having an identity to hold at all. But I wanted to talk to him this week because he is such a bright force of play and love and abundance. And I just wanted to kick around some of the philosophies and concepts that are turning him on in his life right now, in his journey. And when we talked, it became clear that he is consciously seeking out a spiritual family that can help him do just that. He calls it open source spirituality, and I really love the idea that we can just hold space for each other to share resources as we figure out what we're doing here, what the universe is all about, what paradigms of consciousness fit well and help us make meaning here in our time on Earth in these bodies. Trendy's really good at asking what stories help you understand yourself, and in that way, all things, and also what stories are you allowing to operate subconsciously and that are determining your experience of life without you even being aware of it. And he talks about some of the practices that he's cultivating that are helping him deprogram some of those stories and to step out of the matrix, if you will, the many matrices. We talk about how to explore dream realms and other forms of consciousness without necessarily using substances to do so. And I think you'll feel the love and energy that's pouring out of him as he consciously channels the heart chakra in his art and his mission and his presence. So I'll let him fill in the rest. Thanks for being here. Here's Trendy.
See, that's funny enough, who I am. I've actually been destroying a lot of the old me's, the old programs that I've been running for a while now. So it's kind of weird. Like, I no longer associate my quote-unquote life story with my face. I've actually been doing a couple spiritual practices to where you kind of like disassociate like your being from the story that you've been living thus far in this lifetime. And it helps you again better connect to the source. But as far as me, I'm a divine spiritual being made of love and light. But to speak more in technical terms, I'm Tahid G, or aka Trendy as my art name. I was born November 19th, 1996 in Newark, New Jersey. And I was born to a mother and father, William Earl G. Jr., aka Sadiq, and my mother, Margaret Ann Gilder. And I'm an artist. I live in Delaware currently. I dabbled in graphic designs for a few years now, so I'm a graphic designer as well. I love making art, and I don't know what else to say.
Beautiful. One of the reasons that I wanted to talk to you is because we primarily have an internet relationship, but every time I encounter your spirit, I'm just so blown away by the love that you radiate. And it feels like you've made a really intentional choice to make that your spirit in the world. And so I'm just so excited to hear the journey that's brought you to that place.
Well, thank you. First and foremost, before we even get too in depth into the conversation. I would just like to honor the conversation, bring the honoring down from the divine and the ancestors that are always with us. I want to honor you for having me on the podcast today. And I don't know how I really got into this love frequency. It's just something that's been naturally pulling me now that I've kind of had like a good overview of my life so far. And again, that comes from the disassociation with the whole training, but it's allowed me to again look at my life in a more both objective and subjective way. So I guess my whole life I've been very reserved and quiet as a child. I just remember just observing all the time, and like I used to collect rocks when I was like little, like 4 or 5 years old. I just go around with a mason jar like on the street and pick up rocks and stuff like that. But yeah, I was always just so reserved, and I think it's because like I remember like a little bit of my past life, and so maybe I had got to like a point where I had to do like a hard reset and restart over again. But like I remember like, hey, there's something I'm supposed to be doing here. Like there's something I need to pay attention to. So as a kid growing up, I was always very quiet, real antisocial, really introverted, but I still had like this flair of this extrovert energy where I could just be like a little chameleon almost, where I could just dip in and out of cliques and friend groups. And so I guess my loving energy really came from my mother, obviously divine feminine, but also my father as well. Growing up, we always had like a very deep sense of like family. My father took in like a lot of people growing up, so I always had like a lot of people in and out of the house. But it's just family was just always very important to me growing up. Like I knew like all my brothers and sisters like on my father's side, and even growing up with my mother, we actually lived with our Uncle James for a little while, and well, he had like these row houses, so it was pretty much all of the family like just living together. So it was cool. We had like a grapevine like in the backyard, so we used to eat grapes in the summer. Me and my brother used to catch like fireflies in mason jars. I mean, I'm pretty sure every kid did, but we'd try like put grass in there, keep them alive a little bit longer and stuff like that. And so I guess that's where growing up, I just always felt that loving energy from just my family. One of the first spiritual teachers I had was my Uncle Theodore, or Uncle Ted, we call him. He was very spiritual. He's very intelligent with spirituality, and he was one of the first people to kind of rub that energy off onto me and my older brother. And I remember he just had us like working out every time. Like he's like, yo, like when you get older, like you're gonna be my bouncer for like my club. Like, and so I always had like this mindset of like I would be something when I grow up. I guess now that I know a little bit more about my natal chart, so my sun sign is in Scorpio, and we just have the ability to just feel other people's energy and just like truly just love other people's energy. My moon sign is actually in Pisces, and so Pisces, we just feel like everything. Actually, the book that I was reading a little bit about astrology breaks down Pisces as the only zodiac sign that doesn't exist from this world. So Pisces is 2 fish, and that's how like the Pisces consciousness kind of operates. Like I feel like a lot of time like I'm very dreamy or very like in the spirit world a lot. I'm more so in like in my imagination most of the time, and Pisces had the ability to feel everything, and so I can feel other people and then just feel the whole environment, the mood, the temperature, the situation, like wherever it be. And then my rising is in Capricorn, so I'm just like very hardworking and orderly, sometimes a little too controlling when you combine that with Scorpio. So I guess that's where my loving energy comes from.
When you say you spend time in dream realms, how do you access those realms?
Well, just to preface a little bit, I had my spiritual awakening when I was 16, and during that time I was looking at how to work out, make my body a lot better. And I actually had a group of friends who were brothers, twin brothers actually, and I was spending a lot of time over their house and like seeing their family transition from like the conventional type of diet to the vegan vegetarian type of diet. And while they were transitioning like their diet, they was also transitioning like their mental diet. So a lot of the things that they were programming themselves with, they were looking at, a lot of esoteric metaphysical like programming videos and stuff dealing with that knowledge. I was just over there all the time. It's like my second family. I look at them like my cousins and stuff like that. But I took that information and I started to, dive deeper like within myself, and started doing some of the exercises with meditation, just focusing on the breath, but also being very in tune with my body. Again, like I've been working out since like 4 years old, like doing push-ups and stuff in the house, and so always just had a very like aware sense of my body and myself, and I just had like this deep sense of like connection with my emotions. And so to get back to the main point, which how to access the dream realms, I feel like it's a combination of all those things, having the knowledge of how to, through the breath, but also having a certain level of awareness within oneself, whether it be emotionally, physically, or in this sense spiritually. But it all coalesces to one thing. You need to exercise. You need to know the body. You need to know when the body's hurting. You need to know how you feel about certain things, and how can you express those feelings in a beneficial way, in a positive light, that helps other people. And then also, again, putting in the spiritual work, doing the energy work with the meditations and things like that. It all allows you to flow a lot more easily and lucidly. But one of the books and practices that really helped me was The Toltec Secret by Sergio Magana. And just to preface back just a little bit more to my whole spiritual awakening at 16, the next year, as I continued to, stay on a vegetarian diet, I just immediately noticed like a shift in my consciousness. Like I didn't look at the world the same anymore, because now everything was spiritual, even like walking down the street.
Will you explain what you mean a little bit?
Okay, so everything is energy. We are energy. So when the body is a vehicle, which means it's like a certain level form of technology. It's just organic technology. People think technology is the stuff we build, but all that is relative, like outside of ourselves, And so this organic technology, we're operating all the time, but what's operating the machine, is the energy, the source, the chi, or your inner being, your inner light. And so anytime you move this technology and the reality, it's always spiritual. It's always energy interacting with energy. So it's like everything's like having sex with each other, like sacred energy exchange. I move through the world, and as I move like the air particles, and so the air particles have to give way to me moving as I'm walking, or even when you're walking. So in tune with yourself, you can begin to pick up all the sounds in your environment. You hear these sounds, but you don't actually necessarily name them. You just allow them to come to you and just filter through you, and you don't really put too much judgment. In the Tao, they say naming is the source of all particular things. So when you name it, it becomes particleized or solid, or has weight. So what I mean when everything is spiritual, everything is energy, everything is interacting with one another. And so even the way I wear my hat is spiritual, because this whole thing is a program. And so how we move and operate our character on the dimension of reality, it puts in like a certain code, like whether we know it or not. Like it's a certain code. It's like a cheat code. It's like the way you move is like the cheat codes. How like in video games, like do L1 X1 and the characters all jumping around and stuff like that, and it produces a certain frequency, a certain reality, a certain world that now is open to them. And so again, the way we move through the world, wherever it be, through our speaking engagements, the words we use, the foods we eat, the exercises we do, it's all spiritual. Even the way we wear our clothes, the logos we design, it all means something. All these symbols represent things, on the higher plane. And it's just that Here, we've disassociated the actual true meaning of a lot of these symbols, actually forgotten like the true essence of what it is. And in the Tao, it says, the Tao is the easiest path, but people prefer to use the side paths, you know? How can we always like come back to the way? How can we always find the way within ourselves? And I think that's like the truth behind everything is like, what does your internal compass say? You know, how you should move, or should you do this and that? And now I've just got back into the level of listening to my internal compass once more and just going off of the feeling, because they're a form of technology as well. They're like antenna, you know, like out there to help you better experience or express like the reality that, you know, is coming in. And fear is, you know, a lot of people talk about fear, and fear is actually a good, not, I want to put tenses to like good or bad, because that's how we get into duality, but fear is a tool, just like everything. Like, again, the body is a machine. It's a form of technology. Our language is a form of technology. Our emotions are a form of technology. And so, you know, fear, in this case, you know, in the reality that we live in now, has been a tool that's been used against us in certain tense. You know, people just start fearing fear, you know, fear in life, you know, fear wherever it is. And they have this tool, they have this emotion, but they don't know how to properly use it, you know what I mean? Like, we don't get instruction manuals when we get the body and stuff. So it's like, all right, I have all these emotions, I have all these tools in my toolkit. How do I use it, operate it? And so what I've been, you know, using fear as like radar. Like, I'll send that signal out, and if there's something that's like in that space that makes me fearful, or, you know, again, maybe it's something I need to investigate further, you know what I mean? Why am I fearful of this experience? But yeah, accessing the dream realm has to do with a lot of all these things, because a lot of those things that I just discussed are programs. And so the more programs and things you have loaded up onto your computer or your body or your software, these thoughts, these emotions, these feelings, eating habits, whatever, it weighs the body down. It weighs your spiritual body down, and it stops you from actually accessing these higher realms. Like, we want to get light, you know what I mean? If you ever look at the full card, like in the tarot, he has like a light sack. He packs light, you know. They tell you pack light. You ever hear Erica Badu? It's pack light for a reason, because we are light. This is a light body. And so the more that we believe that these things have weight, will weight here on the realm, you know, will actually be take on physical weight and not be able to ascend into those, you know, higher realms. And so we have to get light, minimize the possessions we have, focusing on the breath. The breath is the lightest thing, you know, air.
Is breath connected to the animating energy?
Yes, it is. Breath is the main vehicle, or it's like the main fuel. Like, we can't go a moment without breathing. Like, for too long, and then you're just like, oh man, T's down there on the floor, you know, he about to leave, you know. It's like gas in a car, you know. That's the best way to explain it. Like, it's the main way for us to charge up and access those higher realms. And so the breath is kind of like the heartbeat or the drum. It's a frequency. Everything is a certain frequency. The universe has already made everything perfect in its design, and everything in the universe has the universe imprinted in it already. And so if we really want to access the universe or access these higher realms, right, we just have to get in touch with what's already been given to us, which is the breath. It's just that direct connection with the universe. And once we channel into these frequencies, we're there. But yeah, accessing these higher planes is really just accessing yourself, because you are the higher plane. You are the universe, right? So it's just like, if I'm the universe, I just need to get in touch with the universe, which is me. The body has everything already, whatever you can imagine. Like, it's just about what vista you're viewing it through, or what chakra you're on. And I've had the pleasure of going up and down the chakras. Sometimes in my root chakra, it get a little scary because that's where all the lower vibrational energies are. And so you have to set those things in order as well. Face those fears. That's what the root chakra deal with. Survival and fear and stuff like that. So, in order to realign it, you just need to feel secure within yourself. Get to know yourself again. The more you can go back up and down your chakras and, learn these lessons over and over again, the more complete you'll be. And the faster you can do them, the more one you will be with the universe, because that's the frequency the universe is always operating on. That rainbow bridge to the universe. And these past few years, I've had the beautiful opportunity of seeing like double rainbows. Well, first off, just seeing a rainbow period is like magical. Like you think a unicorn's about to pop out or something. It's like how is that even possible? But then seeing like two double arcing rainbows, like fully, it was just a beautiful. It's the clear light that's coming down hits the atmosphere in a certain way to create the rainbow or the illusion, and that's what we are as well. Our chakras are the 7 colors in the rainbow, but more than that, that's what the body is. And when you start doing things like destroying your reflection in the mirror, like you see that the body is like really holographic, and that what is actually projecting the body is you, or the pineal gland, or the mind is actually projecting this whole physical structure. It's just about how much you believe it's real. It's just like in the Matrix where he's telling Neo, he's like, your mind thinks it's real. Like you think you're eating that steak, or you think it's just how much you believe you need, or how far you fall down the rabbit hole, Alice.
When you say looking in the mirror and destroying what you see, can you unpack that process a little bit?
Oh, yeah. So with me, what I do, I look into the mirror, obviously, hey, handsome guy there. Yeah, I start to get into a meditative like state, just focusing on my breath, repeating positive affirmations to myself, and saying to myself, I know that this body is not real. It's made of light. I mean, it's very real, don't get me wrong, but it's not real in the sense that I'm perceiving it to be real. So, I lock my gaze into, my reflective pupils, and I just breathe. And then what happens is my reflection starts to get dark, black almost. I just see the outline of my figure, and as it gets very dark or black, it starts to dissipate, and then it becomes clear, like real smoky like energy. And then during that process, at the same time, that's when I can see how the body is really holographic. Now I can see like the light actually bending around my form, and I can see all the colors in the light and the rainbow. And again, you have to go back to the black or the womb. That's what is happening, and that's how I've understood that whole process. And it wasn't a technique that was in Sergio Magaña's book, but I know he does a technique very similar to it, where he does it in the black mirror, or the obsidian mirror. I've been doing this practice just in like the mirror, like in the bathroom at home, but I feel like kind of in a way it's the same thing, because in the obsidian mirror you're looking at a black reflection, and it's a lot easier in the obsidian mirror to just go black because the reflection's already kind of dark. All these ancient scriptures and texts, they say it was the black eagle, or the darkness or whatever, that was first, and then it saw its reflection, and then it became these grander things. And so that's how I understood, first I need to get really dark, or go back inside. And that's what the meditation does for you, allows you to go dark, close your eyes, go back into yourself, and then everything becomes clear, right? Like once you're clear, like you can be anything. You don't have to be a thing, you can be anything. And just always having that, living in that realm of possibility, and not stamping yourself to one ideology or thought form is what really frees you. That's that air quality, that breath, the detachment.
Yeah, has either this book that you are reading currently, or the soul family that you're part of, do they give you distinct paradigms that have become part of your understanding of what's going on here?
Most definitely. And big shout out to my family over there at Secret Energy. They're doing amazing work. They actually have everything you need for spirituality, open source spirituality.
Yeah, what is that? I love that.
So I probably would do a disservice trying to explain it. My brother Zevin, who's actually the creator of the platform, he could probably explain it to you a lot better. And so I encourage anyone who's listening right now, go ahead, check out Secret Energy, check out Understanding on YouTube. My brother Zevin, he not only breaks down pretty much everything you need to know as far as spirituality, but he hits it at every level, on the emotions, the physical realm, as far as like the body and your environment, and then also some of the mental hangups that people get caught on. And so my spirit family has been very instrumental in getting me to where I'm at today. And I'm just so thankful. I'm sending love and balanced vibration, wholeness, to my family out there and to anyone who's listening, because we're all family. I love everyone. I love you, Maura. A lot of the programming and spiritual knowledge I did get from this website, and it kind of sparked my mind to further investigate a lot of these other different avenues of spirituality. My family had posted the video of Sergio Magana actually doing the dreaming exercises and doing the breaths before you go to sleep at night to help you plant your dreams, and that's kind of how I got into it. But yeah, over there we have a beautiful anthology of spiritual texts, the right minerals and monatomics to help refuel the body. And again, it done wonderful things for my life. I don't want to sound like a salesman.
No, I feel it. I feel how authentic it is. So what's happening in your understanding? What's happening when we're accessing dream spaces? Because I know we talked about how plant medicines have been an important portal for me in accessing those places, but you've found ways to go there directly.
Dreams are very much the sub-program to the reality. And now I'm paraphrasing my brother Seven. But how I've understood dreams is just like, again, another plane. It's just a lighter plane. I'm not in the physical body anymore. I've ascended to another realm, which is not really, tangible or solid. And we have more of the universe to play with in those higher realms, as opposed to here, we're very limited. Accessing those spaces will just allow you to better operate the physical, because you have to dream it first before you can live it. You see it in your dreams, then you live it. Any book that I've read about like self-improvement has always had this dream it before you live it. A book that I encourage other people to check out is Psycho-Cybernetics, which is a self-improvement book that kind of sparked all of the other self-improvement books that we have now. But Psycho-Cybernetics teaches the theater in the mind, and you have to see yourself doing it first, which triggers something that's called your automatic success mechanism, or your subconscious. You have to program your subconscious with the act of what you want to do in order so you can go ahead and do it. And so taking care of yourself, like in the dreams or in the dream realm, is very important of how we live out here. A lot of people don't remember their dreams. They don't have the access to know what's going on, so they don't actually know what's affecting them subconsciously. We have a conscious and a subconscious. As an energy, these are our tools to better experience our experience. And so we only have access to one. It's like we only speaking like half of a language. The Tao says that being is what we use to create things, but not being is what is like the inspiration behind us wanting to create those things, So it's that imagination, that theater in the mind, which allows us to better create our reality every day.
I really love that in some of the messages that you've shared. I can see you helping people to shift the storytelling that they have towards gratitude. A lot of it seems to be, and abundance. And it really feels like you're kind of offering these keys to the magic.
always, because that's my responsibility, is to pay it forward. And if I don't take care of me, then I can't take care of we. And the way I take care of me is by taking care of we. It's so paradoxical at the same time, but it's not, like, in a way, because it's my uniqueness, it's my light that I'm shining. And if I don't shine my light, then I won't feel good about myself, obviously, but then I'll be doing a disservice to everyone else, So in order for me to have this grand experience that I want to have, I need to let my light shine.
Yeah. I'm curious how and if you feel your art is connected to that. Because I remember being a kid and talking to my mom about how I wanted to make a difference in the world and how I felt like that meant I should choose some kind of service path. And I remember her saying, like, you are an art spirit in the world, and you doing that fully is the service path. Like, that is the
High five.
Yeah, thank you, Mom.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm curious how your art practice is part of that.
Well, that is so synchronistic to what's just happened. I'll share a story that just happened about 3 hours ago.
Oh, shit,
okay. On my way here is a great example of how my artistic path has, created this space for me. So I got on the train to come here to Brooklyn. So I hopped on the train from Newark Penn Station, got off at New York Penn Station, and I'm on the subway, and guy comes to the door. It's cold out. Some people homeless. It's the city. People always asking for money. You know what I mean? And growing up, just coming from the environment I come from, it's like sometimes we also look at certain people like that with distaste and disdain. And as I've become more spiritually mature and seeing the world as myself, I can look into people and see their stories. I can see their energies. I can see the angels, their demons. I can see all that. And so, one thing that I've seen, it was like a very beautiful quote. It was saying, like, I think it was by, like, the Buddha. It was like, always give. When you have the ability to give, you should always be giving in the service of giving. And so, I actually sold some art this weekend. My sister, she's like my low-key art dealer right now. Cause I left some paintings at her house, and she was like, and I'm gonna sell this painting for you. The lady's making payments, but here's some of the money. Wow. And so, I had that money in my pocket. It was cash. The guy comes in, hey, anybody can help me out? And I thought of the quote by the Buddha. I'm like, I have to just give. Like, besides, this money is not even for me. It's not even mine. The more I give, the more I receive. And so I gave the guy the $5 and, like, here. And again, I don't know his, situation. And that's the fact of me not knowing, but also knowing that I know of similar situation. Me growing up, it was a point in time where we didn't have a place to live. We were homeless and staying in a shelter and stuff like that. So I know just that feeling of not having, or perceiving not having. And so, I decided to, give. While I'm on that train, I find out that was the wrong train. I was going uptown. I needed to come downtown for here, right? And, as I'm coming back downtown, I'm sketching in my sketchbook, working on my comic book sketchbook, actually. And a guy gets on, he looks at my drawing, he's like, hey, that's cool, Another guy, remarks like, yeah, like, you got skill over there, kid. And I'm like, hey, appreciate you, you know what I mean? And when the guy's getting off, the one guy asked me to draw him, so, I'm drawing him and stuff like that. And as I'm drawing him, I realize what I'm doing, you know what I mean? I'm utilizing this beautiful creative gift that I've had, and I see that my art makes people happy, and that's what makes me happy, to see that my art gives people such pleasure and, beautiful energy. And as I'm drawing him, he's glancing at it, he's smiling, and I see the energy. But another homeless guy comes on train, and again, it's the same, like, act, you know what I mean? It's like, damn, the universe is, like, testing me. It's like, so you gave that one time, you passed the first test. Young grasshopper, now you're gonna pass the second test. And I just realized, it's like I'm in the service of giving right now. Like, so like I'm giving to this one guy by drawing him on the train. And, when I gave him the drawing, he was like elated, just ecstatic. He's like, wow, that's really me. And, I wasn't expecting anything from it. But again, he just gave me $5. And it's like, dang, that's the $5 I just gave to the one guy. And so the one homeless guy, he came on, he gave the spiel, but I was in the act of, drawing. So I wasn't like, trying to like stop or whatever. But, after I got the $5, the guy, he gets off the train. The homeless guy comes back around again. I'm like, oh yeah, like that $5 wasn't for me. That $5 for this guy here. And so it's like, I need to give that. Yeah, in a way, that's like, I feel like that's my purpose, to make people happy with my art. And again, that's how I even got here today. It was via my art, someone liked it. My art has always been like my therapy, as most people, and I remember growing up, how I even started drawing was through like pre-K. Like I would be drawing in pre-K, but the reason I would draw, because I was like 4 years old. Like every time my mom worked at Essex County College in Jersey, and they had like the little daycare program there, and every time she dropped me off to daycare, like I'd just be crying. Like I was big mama's boy, like, cause like that's my mom. Like at 3 or 4 years old, like where are you going? Like you need to always be with me. I need to have my eyes on you. And they had to fight with me to like keep me in the classroom and stuff. Like as she walked away, and I'd just be crying. I remember they just always sat me down with like a box of crayons, some construction paper, and I would draw. And I would just draw and draw and draw. And I actually have my sketchbook from like when I was like, I had to be like 6 or 7. And I look back at it now, I'm like, oh, that's pretty good, like for a kid, like, And yeah, the drawing was just like an art, just in general. I do finger paint, whatever. It's just a beautiful way of me expressing myself, and it's just the finding self again. Finding those relaxing modes or frequencies or ways of being, and just getting in tune with that. Because again, that's what drawing did. It allowed me to calm down that anxiousness, nervousness of not having my mom around, and just breathe and just, get into the flow. That's what you're doing when you're moving your hand. Your hand's flowing on the paper. That's the crayon, and it's all those things, the colors. I use all the colors in the drawing, and again, that's how I found my way in the world. I probably just remember a lot more from my past life, a little bit, than other people. Because my past life probably was at this point where I understood a lot of things, but I need to go another round, just to better clear it out, get the information more potent this time. And so, yeah.
So is your understanding of the soul, is that it's a finite thing that comes back? Like we'll call the soul T, just for the sake. Yeah. Does T come into incarnation as a human and then go back to the energy plane and then come back and then go back? Or is it more like it's all one soupy meltiness of consciousness, and you are me and I am you, and there's no like conversation on the other side where we're like, hey, that was a great trip, I loved hanging out with you as humans,
See, I can go so many directions with that, because like in the dream realm, there is no sense of division, and that's where the source energy comes from. That's where we actually come from. I actually employ everyone and you to check out the brother Martin Kinney, who discusses like the toroidal fields and the actual shape of the world. It's not necessarily like the flat earthers, but it's more of like the way the cosmic clock is designed, where like the world is levels and tiers, and it's the way our body has levels and tiers. We have different bodies, the emotional body, etc., etc. So too is the world, the reality is shaped. So it's like a Russian doll, or like one of those grand royal eggs, where there's like layers and layers. And so on the physical, we have access to this level. Like in the video game, you can only do these certain maneuvers, and you can only be as much as this level allows you to be. And so when we come into this physical plane, it's just saying via our signal or spirit energy frequency, It's just saying we're just at this level. And so sometimes we need to learn this level over again because we didn't complete it. And so when we leave, again, we do return to source, I believe. But I don't even know how to properly word it.
It's so hard to put it into language.
Like, again, it's unexplainable.
Yes.
And the more you go to it, the more it runs from you. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely implore everyone to check out, Martin Kinney and the way the earth is shaped, because the way the earth is shaped actually kind of better allows you to understand the different levels and planes within yourself. So we have with this thing like with the circle of life, or the way the cosmic clock, moves, is very synchronistic and in line with how we come into the existence. So at the top of the egg, Martin can he probably explain a lot better than I can, but at the top of the egg is where we come in at, or is the source, or the in the Hindu culture it is what's Shiva's consort? Do you know? Is it Saraswati? I don't want to use the wrong avatar for the Divine Mother, but we come through the Divine Mother where everything is one, the darkness, the energy. So I believe when we do leave this plane, we probably return to that, and then we come back down. But as we're coming back down, we have to go through all these different layers. And so where space and the planetary bodies and all those things they're actually like different levels, or different ships, or different ways of experiencing. And when we land here on to the third heaven, we are the fallen angel. We are that falling, or that shooting star that comes down. And here we have the most controlled, and especially when you're in human form, and it's a lot harder to control things when you're in animal form. Here, human, in the Tao, they say there's 4 great powers. The Tao is great, the universe is great, the earth is great, and the man is great. And so just having that connection with the universe, it allows us to ascend. We don't have to be in the lower vibratory or death or cyclical like cycle of the reality, on what the reality on, because here we have time and it's very limited. And so this is why I said the university, you only have certain time in school. They give you 4 years, but this school we get 72 or 80 years, 90 years, or however long you live, to get the lessons that you need to get. And yeah, we're just here. We fell down just like any toddler does, and we just have to learn to get back up. But we just falling down to a level where it's like, oh, like this is kind of scary here. And you can fall here, but there's lower levels than this. As you experience your chakra, you encounter energies and things, beings, worlds that are lower level, and sometimes it's scary. But it's not so much we focus on these things, but we need to understand that they're there, and there are places you can go if you choose to go those routes. You know what I mean? And I see that energy in people, like if you look at like drug dealers or anything like that, they've decided to, and again, every plane is on this plane, like everything's happening at the same time. So like all the spiritual realm stuff, like it's all happening. It's just like, what layer are you on? Like what vista are you looking through? I see when people are like harming other people, it's not necessarily them, but they're just being influenced by these negative energies unconsciously, because they don't have a greater sense of themselves. They don't understand the inner mechanics of themselves and their emotions. And it's like giving like a baby like a AK. Like you don't know how to like properly handle it, then like you can do some real damage. You can hurt people in this lifetime, or you can help people become the best they can be. So it's like, which do you choose? That's why, again, getting into yourself, in and up, then you get down and out. So the more you go out of yourself, that's what you see with people who are, again, not no shade to my drug dealer friends out there, but that's what you see, or people who are just more extroverted in their sense of tangibility of what they need in life. The more you go outside of yourself, that's the more you receive. You'll come down and out. A lot of people have all this money, but they still feel like shit. You have all these, possessions and materialistic things, but there's no sense of value. You're putting all your energy into these physical things, like I said, the more weight you have, the longer you'll wait on this plane. So it's like, again, about getting light. It's like, how can we have less of these things? And that's the lesson we need to learn. It's like, how can we have less? How can we do with less? That's why fasting is important. How can I program the body of not needing to have food in the body every day? Something I learned over watching one of my brother's programs. I learned about the Siddhas, which is in the Hindu culture. Siddhas, or people like you and I, just took the time to find themselves. You know what I mean? Like, we were the type of people that were in the caves trying to like master our body. Experiment with these plants. We had to be removed from society because everything external to us, is in a way very disorientating. You know what I mean? The more physical you get, the less you have with yourself. And so the Siddha were these people, men and women. The Siddha is the man, the Deva is the woman, or in today's terminology, diva. But yeah, these people just had the ability to go within themselves and figure out the inner mechanics of the body and how to connect with that divine energy, so much to where they no longer sometimes needed the body. You know what I mean? Like Krishna, for example. If you look at Krishna in the Hindu traditions, they always paint Krishna and all the other deities with blue skin and things like that. And just the synchronicity. I think of my character because he's blue, right? But the way it was explained to me through the great Sadhguru. I love Sadhguru. I watch his programmings all the time as well. Was that, again, just like how we pick up the phone and we leave the phone down, like once you come into a greater understanding with yourself, you can do the same thing with the body. It's like, oh, I left my body like over there, and like, you know what I mean? But now you're walking like in the spiritual form and you manifest electromagnetic skin. And so that's what the bluish skin, electricity, that form. And so again, that's all about getting light. Like, how light do you want to get here? It's like, we can get really light. That's where the true power lies. It lies within the self, not anything in the physical. You see that the physical very limited. They can't get into space. They can't go into other realms physically. But I've been doing it like every night when I go to sleep. Like, he's like, what do you mean? Like, yeah, I don't know where to go from here.
I'm curious if it's something you're comfortable sharing, what you remember from your past life and how that's kind of revealed to you what you're working on this time around, if you know what that is.
I don't necessarily see with the past life, as far as like my previous incarnations, as far as like my own personal vessel, I haven't dreamt those dreams yet, or like experienced them yet. But by looking at my other past lives, because again, all is self, right? Like, everything is you. Even looking at people who are older than me, they're my past lives. Your parents are perfect examples of your past life because you come from them. And so I learned a lot from my parents, as far as, seeing the mistakes they made, or, how they handle their emotions and the programming that they're under, or allow themselves to be subservient to. I look at that and see it in myself, and then I know where to correct the DNA. I know where to correct those broken links, the broken chain. But we're the unbroken chain, see? And we gotta stick together because we're family. Yeah. And I learned from them. They are my past lives. And I forget where I heard it, but they were saying that you choose your parents. Like, again, being is always created by not being. You know what I mean? So you choose your parents before you were born, and you choose this lifetime because it gives you the certain experience or lesson that you need. And so, I chose my parents because they've taught me these certain things that I need to learn. It's like, dang, like, Source always knows, like, higher self always knows. Like, it's like the best parent to have all the time, because it's just always going to give you exactly what you need, which is, you'll just see it again, yourself. You just need more of yourself. But just like understanding that the self is everywhere, like that water, this glass, like, it's me, like, it's, and then it's like, then things like fear and jealousy, all those things fall to the wayside, because it's like, it's me. Like, why would I be afraid of me? And that's how I see, past lives, and it's the ancestors, because the ancestors is within every one of us, no matter our skin color, or imaginary ideology, called race. The skin is just our costume. It's just like, how do you want to customize your character? How do you want to express yourself? I express myself with, maybe some darker, skin, because I don't know. I want to encapsulate the sun a lot more, so maybe my skin is a little bit darker. Or maybe, I want to master the body by, testing it against the cold and not letting the external things in life get to me. So my skin may be a little bit lighter, and each makeup is very special and has its own uniqueness. No two people are the same, even if we're quote unquote from the same race, or things like that. We all have our own unique ability. That's what we're here to remember: our uniqueness, our greatness.
So what is your relationship with the ancestors? How do you acknowledge them? And are you kind of acknowledging our shared lineage, or do you understand it as kind of a cohort of primal wisdom?
Yeah, the cohort of primal wisdom that we all come from, because it had to be a time where we were all at one with one another. So your history is my history. My history is your history. There's no separation. The separation is or the division is what really caused fear. When you feel separate from yourself, you don't know. It's like you're a little kid and you lost in a department store and you can't find your mom. That level of fear. Totally. That's the level of fear that people are living in every day, because they've forgotten like themselves. Like, and it's like, just turn around. You've always been there. You never not had. The ancestors are always with us. The ancestors are the good thoughts that you hear in your ear, your angels. The way you connect with the ancestors is doing what the ancestors did, or tapping into the frequency that the ancestors are on, which is a lot of these, what they call primitive or primal things. So like maybe beating on the drum, the congos or whatever type of drum your ancestors or the ancestors did. Again, like me tapping into the dreaming practices that the ancient Mexicatsi or ancient Toltecs did, allows me to get in tune with those ancestors. But also, the animals are the ancestors as well. Like, they're the perfect archetypes. Everything in the reality is the ancestors. The crystals are the ancestors. There's a whole world, cities. It's just like on the comic books and stuff like that. You know how Superman has like the Fortress of Solitude, and then his ancestors, their whole history was in the crystals. And they always tell you they have to tell you the truth, but to keep you in fear, they spin it in a way of to where it make it look like it's fantasy and something that's outside of you. This was the whole idea behind religion and things like that. With God, like, God's a figure where it's like outside of you, like in the sun, in the clouds. You don't even know, who that entity is. It's just, I just hope he take mercy on me. It's like, no, like, that's you. Like, why are you hoping you take mercy on yourself? And we project our own reality. So if we start believing the fantasy and the fictitious things, then that's when they have true control over us. In the Hindu culture, that's why the British were able really to like colonize them, because they had this sense of this thing. And I'm paraphrasing this from the wise Sadhguru. He was saying that that they have this understanding or idea of, I believe it's called Kala, where you don't look at yourself as like, I'm this person, you look at yourself like a part of the universe, like you're in the universe. That's why it didn't really make sense for Christianity couldn't really penetrate, that culture, because they always had a sense of being one with the universe. So anything that was teaching you to look outside of yourself for what you knew to be true didn't really resonate. This is a greater technology that the universe, like, we nah, chill out. You know, I had like two thoughts that I wanted to bring back up too.
I feel like it was kind of springing from the idea of like religion being a source of control. I don't know if that was.
Yeah, I know. I get on these tangents.
It's great.
You know?
It's great. It's
But
just like the infinitely blossoming tree.
Yeah, I hope I'm making sense.
Totally.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I'm with you.
I think the main thing I was, talking about was just having this idea that things are outside of yourself. You know what I mean? And that's where the religion kind of kicks in and ties back into the ancestors. You know, the ancestors are always with us because nothing is ever distant from us. Even time is an illusion. Time is just little episodes or sections. You know what I mean? We get this block of time because we're at this level of our understanding. You know. And so our thing is not to get stuck in time or get stuck in just this one movie that we're projecting, or believe wholeheartedly that this movie is, so solid and finite. When you're saying, like, do you think the soul is finite? It's infinite. And so we're actually having infinite experiences. It's like, do you want to have more and more grander and blissful and blossoming experiences, or do you want to have more negative and fear-based in her experiences? Is whatever you choose to program yourself with. And again, it's up to us as the individuals, because again, sometimes in our lifetimes and in our ancestors' lifetimes, there's been damage to the DNA. Like, you fall down, you scrape your knee, but sometimes people have a hard time getting up from whatever it is, whether it be some real traumatic thing that happened to him as a kid. As long as you're still replaying those old memories like a broken record, it gets stuck in the DNA, and so that transfers to your kids and stuff like that. And but again, it's up to us to heal ourselves, because when we heal ourselves, we're healing all ourselves on parallel timelines, different realms. We're healing the ancestors. It's like, it's cool because I got you. I got me. Once I got me, then we're all good. We're all rocking just fine.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear you talk about that, because I realize, and there was certainly a time in my life where I was one of these people, I realized there's a way to hear kind of the message that you're sharing of like, you are responsible for your own healing, and say, yeah, sure, that's all fine and great, but the reality is that we live in this three-dimensional world, and there's a lot of really bad shit out there, and bad shit happens to good people. And like, how do we operate in a world where, like you're saying, in a city like this, I walk by how many people who are suffering, and I'm just supposed to operate in the matrix and pretend like I'm not absorbing the fact that we're all treating each other like that's permissible. Like, so how do we take this knowledge that we are so much more than this paradigm, and how do we actually operate within the game successfully?
Again, it goes back to just bringing out just sticking true to who you are and really helping who you are. The more you try to go outside yourself to help you, like, look at like all these commercials, even though a lot of them, they're good intention, but you know what they say about good intentions, right? Like, help feed these children in Africa, or like this one recent one my mom's been, because my mom watched TV. I don't watch TV, but I catch glimpses of it every now and again. And there's like this new one where it's like, help these old Jewish people that live in like Turkey or somewhere that survived the Holocaust, and they don't have any like food, and so like all that equipment that you have is like probably like enough to help those people. Like, just even you flying out there and like shooting a commercial or whatever. It's like, that a lot of that stuff is like, the money's not even seeing those people. It's just like, it's ridiculous. But again, back to your point, you see like the pain and injustice that, is in the reality, and it's like, how can I just walk by like that guy on the street, the bum on the street, and not feel bad? And, it's good to feel that, feel it, you're feeling it for a reason. It allows you to know that something's wrong in the matrix. As the healer, right, you have to heal yourself. So you feel it, you don't hold on to it. You be the filter. You allow it to just filter through you. You feel the experience. Oh, okay. And the real, if you want to make real change, you have to save yourself. Save yourself. Again, it's all going back to self. So once you start tapping into your uniqueness, start building abundance in your uniqueness, start operating on this frequency, maybe, the bum on the street doesn't need that $5. Maybe he just needs like a good conversation. Like maybe he needs a spiritual awakening to help him remember himself. And so maybe you can do more for a person as opposed to trying to handle the physical things, because at the end of the day, we all want us to ascend together, help beat the game together, level up together. And so the more we help each other remember that, hey, this is just the game, like this is just the matrix, what Tribe calls the real matrix, and then there's the fake matrix. New York City, when I was here last year, I just had like the greatest epiphany. I was like, wow, this is like the real program. Like this is like the real, like I just see everyone operating on these scripts. Like, oh yeah, you're supposed to be like this trash man, and you're supposed to have these certain set of feelings and live your life this way because that's what the trash man lives like, and we've created all these fictitious characters, and just how much you believe you're that character, and this goes back again to the practices, getting in tune with yourself to realize that you aren't any of these characters. You have the ability to play these characters. The bum on the street is just playing. I'm not saying like he don't have real problems, but we have to be the shining example of just that. In the Tao, the teacher gives a teaching without teaching, and so it's like you just being the perfect example of yourself, just always loving yourself, letting your light shine, just allows other people to help shine their light. Like this is the same reason why we're here today. Like you seeing my light and I see your light. We just realize that our light is shining together, and it just makes, again, something that's more and more grand, because that's what we're looking for. We're looking for more and more grand experiences, and those experiences will never be found outside of us. So yeah, that's how we beat the game. That's how we override the hate and the fear and the division and the matrices, by allowing ourselves to just simply be the unique beings that we've chosen ourselves to be and know ourselves to be, and divine has created ourselves to be. We've already perfect. It was just the fact that we got caught up on the idea of just lack and not having and not being perfect, and we just kind of fell and just kept tumbling into that. It's like, all right, I need to get the fuck up. I need to make something happen. And that's what it usually takes for like people who are in those situations where it's like, hey, like, shit, you know what? I just need to go to AA, like, you know what I mean? Or maybe, eating this type of food, I see how it makes me feel. Like, let me not eat that food anymore. It's, again, it always starts with the self. Even if you want to help people have to help themselves. Like, you could lead the horse to the water, but you can't make it drink it, So you can do it, everything you can, do the homeless shelters and all these. I'm not saying these things aren't important, they shouldn't be there, for the current reality or space. But when you try to overexert too much will, too much force, too much control, then that's when you find yourself out of control. Just look at the world. We have so much, so structured, so controlled, that people are out of control. People are doing all types of crazy things, hurting one another, forgetting who they really are, Oh, damn, I've spent so much time at work, I forgot about the wife and kids, and oh, man, that's what was really important. I should have, but no, like, you just believed you were this character so much that you got away from what was really important, which was yourself, the unit that you came in with, that family, that tribe. It's just about getting back to it.
Yeah, and that's why the tribe and the family and the community is so important, because we can take care of each other's three-dimensional needs to keep the body alive in this game, and then give each other the space to be who we really are. Yeah,
definitely. And again, you just giving me the opportunity just made me feel so beautiful today. Like this whole journey was just like, oh, I needed this. It's like a little vacay, and it's just like, Yeah, yeah, this is cool.
Thank you so much for sharing your perspective. I do feel like it's a gift. Who you are is a gift. And someone, a shaman that I sat with last summer said that what she sent us back out into the world to do was to be an environment of love, to put out love like a force field, or I've heard it described as like the way a squid puts out ink, to put out love everywhere you go, and you're doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And that's what Open Heart Chakra, March 23rd, quick plug.
Yeah, please.
March 23rd. I actually haven't pinned down a venue yet, but I'm planning on having it in Philly. But March 23rd, come get some love. Yeah. It's all beautiful vibes. The art show is probably only gonna last like 2 hours. Like, I love dancing. That's probably that's my other art. Something I picked up from a past life of mine. My dad, he's an amazing dancer. He just always danced, had all the music playing throughout the house all the time. And so it's just something, I feel his energy with me every time. Like, I'm just in the house dancing and cleaning up and stuff like that. Yeah, come out. We're going to have a good time. Dance, music, family, love, compassion. Everyone gets to walk away with something special that night as well. So... And I hope it just allows you to connect a little bit more with yourself and maybe meet some people you didn't think you would meet.
Yeah. Last thing, where can people find you if they want to connect with you?
People can find me over at Art of Trendy on Instagram. Also, you guys can check me out on Patreon at Trendy. If you just type in the creative, like search creators section on Patreon, you can become a patron, see some exclusive behind the scenes work, and yeah.
Beautiful. All right, thank you so much, Trendy.
No problem. I'm very thankful for this moment as well. Till next time.
Thank you, Trendy. Thank you, Erica Badu. And thank you all for being here today. If you're looking for more podcasts and more art, you can find me on the internet at maurajames.com and on Instagram at maurajames and at unbroken.chain. I want to read you a story that I came across this week. I've been staying at a friend's place in Philly, which means access to friends' bookshelves, and I found a book the other day, thank you Jesse and Stephen, called Some 40 Tales from the Afterlives by David Eagleman, and it's basically a collection of very short essays about what the afterlife might be like. It actually reminds me of this cartoon that my friend Ramin Nazer, who has a dope podcast called the Rainbow Brain School Hour, which is also on the MindPod network. He made this comic a few years ago about what you think happens after you die and running kind of different scenarios, be it reincarnation or void and nothingness. And David Eagleman is basically doing that in written form. And I wanted to read one that really grabbed me the other day. I feel like it's in keeping with Trendy's spirit of examining the programs that we're under and thinking about what it might be like to step outside of them. So I'm going to read this story to send us out this week. It's called Descent of Species. It's the fourth essay in this book by David Eagleman. In the afterlife, you're treated to a generous opportunity. You can choose whatever you would like to be in the next life. Would you like to be a member of the opposite sex? Born into royalty? A philosopher with bottomless profundity? A soldier facing triumphant battles? But perhaps you've just returned here from a hard life. Perhaps you were tortured by the enormity of the decisions and responsibilities that surrounded you. And now there's only one thing you yearn for: simplicity. That's permissible. So for the next round, you choose to be a horse. You covet the bliss of that simple life. Afternoons of grazing in grassy fields, the handsome angles of your skeleton and the prominence of your muscles, the peace of the slow flicking tail or the steam rifling through your nostrils as you lope across snow-blanketed plains. You announce your decision. Incantations are muttered, a wand is waved, and your body begins to metamorphose into a horse. Your muscles start to bulge. A mat of strong hair erupts to cover you like a comfortable blanket in winter. The thickening and lengthening of your neck immediately feels normal as it comes about. Your carotid arteries grow in diameter, your fingers blend hoofward, your knees stiffen, your hips strengthen. And meanwhile, as your skull lengthens into its new shape, your brain races in its changes. Your cortex retreats as your cerebellum grows. The homunculus melts man to horse. Neurons redirect, synapses unplug and replug on their way to equestrian patterns. And your dream of understanding what it is like to be a horse gallops toward you from the distance. Your concern about human affairs begins to slip away. Your cynicism about human behavior melts, and even your human way of thinking begins to drift away from you. Suddenly, for just a moment, you are aware of the problem you overlooked. The more you become a horse, the more you forget the original wish. You forget what it was like to be a human, wondering what it was like to be a horse. This moment of lucidity does not last long, but it serves as the punishment for your sins, a Promethean entrails pecking moment, crouching half horse, half man, with the knowledge that you cannot appreciate the destination without knowing the starting point. You cannot revel in the simplicity unless you remember the alternatives. And that's not the worst of your revelation. You realize that the next time you return here, with your thick horse brain, you won't have the capacity to ask to become a human again. You won't understand what human is. Your choice to slide down the intelligence ladder is irreversible. And just before you lose your final human faculties, you painfully ponder what magnificent extraterrestrial creature, enthralled with the idea of finding a simpler life, chose in the last round to become a human. I love you all. Keep dreaming and scheming out there, and we'll hang out soon. Be well.